Droidly Codes. Welcome back, Android, Java, Sketchware Pro developers. Today we're going to be continuing our Firebase chat application. Today we're actually going to work on our profile a little bit more. Last time we ended up creating a profile page where we logged in our user and then we sent our user's information from our profile page over to the secondary page when we signed in. So we don't want to do it that way. I don't think you'd want to do it that way, at least where you want to send your UID, which is your unique ID that is given to every account, because you don't want your unique ID just sitting there at any given time. So what we're going to do today is actually go ahead and grab our information inside of our onChild added. And when we log in our user, so when we sign in our user, we're going to check our information inside of our database first. We're going to grab our information and then we're going to grab that entire map set of data from that information. We're going to JSON it to a list of data, and then we're going to show that list of data inside of our profile. So I know that's going to be very confusing if you don't know what I'm saying right now, but that's why I'm teaching you what we're going to be doing. So basically, if we go down into our puzzle piece block, go to our operator block, we can scroll all the way down here and we have a block called map to JSON string. So that map data that we're going to be getting is actually going to be based off of the information that is in our onChild added blocks, which is right here. So we're going to grab that right now. So right now we probably still have the text view in here. I think I took mine out. And the reason why that text view was there was because we were using the username before when we added the actual information to the database. But now we're going to actually get our information based off of this user ID string. So this user ID string is going to be set for basically a millisecond of a second, and then it's going to get the information and we're going to set it to a JSON array. So what we're going to do next is add another string variable called profile info. Okay, we're going to create a profile info string variable. We're going to get rid of this text view. We're going to actually go like this. And we're going to grab this block right here out of there, because we're not just getting a specific piece of information, which you can do because we do know our keys and stuff. So our keys are A, I, and U, but we're not getting that information. We're actually going to get the actual map data, so the entire map data, to a JSON array. And that JSON array is going to be converted when we send the information over to our profile screen. And I'm going to show you that in the rawest form first, and then I'll show you how to actually convert this map data to an actual list. Okay, so this is going to be a big one, and yeah, we're going to add all that map data to a specific list map. So we'll grab that map data, put it to a list map, and then load this information from that list map into either a list or a text view or multiple text views like we have on our sign-in page. If you remember, our fun little game was a thing that we did recently too. We tested out some multiplayer with our fun little game. We had player 1 and 2. So if you want to have some fun as well, I like to try to do that as well while we're learning things, then don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with anybody else that needs help with Sketchware, because I don't mind sharing my brain knowledge with all of you and teaching you how to do your own applications or develop your own applications. And future soon, very soon by the way, I'm going to have a full playlist all ready to go to create our first little game, which will be pretty fun as well, which will have animation, picking up objects. You'll be able to walk through doors and stuff like that. So creating a whole tile map and all that kind of stuff properly using rendering and stuff like that. So that'll be a fun little project that we'll work on very soon as well. But for now, we're going to work on this little chat application just because our chat application is very important when it comes to a lot of coding in general. So yes, that's what we're going to be working on today. So in our on user sign in complete, we ended up getting rid of our put extra statement that said, hey, we're going to send our UID to the next activity. Instead of actually sending that information, we are still going to send our email because we want to see our email perhaps. You could also do things like blur out the email or something, but we're also going to send another piece of information, which is going to be our map data. So what we're going to type in here for our key is map data. And then we're going to grab that string that we created called profile info. So how we're going to get this information, I'll show you right now, is we're going to go back into here again, and we're going to start listening to the data or check for the data inside our database. And then at that point, what is going to happen is this piece of code, this little block that I'm going to show you in a second here, which is called start listening, is going to grab a snapshot of the information from the database. And then when that snapshot happens, which is going to be handled in our onChildAdded event, we're going to actually grab that information if the user's child key inside of our database. So if our child key is T6VF and whatever the rest of those numbers and letters are, it's going to get this entire set of information from this child. So if there was more keys in here like B, Z, A, D, whatever, we would get that entire map data set to a specific string of data. So that's going to be this string right here in that map child. So this is a map array of information that we're going to be setting to a specific string, JSON string, that is what it's called. You're going to learn a lot about JSON while coding. And then we're going to actually sign in and finish our user sign in information when that information has been granted to that profile. So when we click on sign in right now, so if we go into sign in, we start listening, we're going to set the screen if we have signed in the user complete, and we're going to send that map data. So let's grab this key and copy it to our clipboard for now, to our secondary profile if that information matches the actual UID that we are given when we actually get the information from the database. So how we're going to do that, we have to actually get that information when we sign in the user as well. So our UID when we sign in the user is going to be user UID or user ID, and then we're going to get that information in our component block. We're going to go all the way down to Firebase, keep going until we get that Firebase auth. We're going to get this information, so we're going to start listening. That's going to do its thing in the background, and we're actually going to put this up here because we're going to get that UID first, then listen, and then we're going to send the user to the next page. So the next page, we're actually going to get our user information inside of our get user info section here still. And then what we're going to do with this is we're going to set a specific string or specific text view based off of that get extra. So I'm going to use the username because the username is going to be blank anyways. And then we're going to grab our extra, which is from our component section, activity get extra key called map data. And then that's going to set that information to that username. So let's get rid of this for now because it's just going to go blank if we do that. And then we will be able to send our exact JSON array of data from that user's profile instead of actually sending the UID to the profile and having it sit there. Because if you have that UID information just sitting there at any time, maybe your friend picks up your phone, starts messing around with your stuff, you can just send data without even thinking about it, right? So you don't want to be able to do that. So that's why we're going to put an option to enter the password before we actually we're able to actually change anything. So sign in our user. Okay. Now we signed in our user. Now that could have happened too fast. So let's go back into our component on our actual main activity here on child added profile info. We're going to get that JSON information from that child key user ID, and then we're going to sign in our user. Sorry about that. So we're going to actually sign in our user after the fact. So we'll start listening. We're going to grab this block, put it in our collection for now. We're going to go intent, just like so, and then we'll sign in our user. So let's put that inside of our onChildAdded so that we have the actual profile information. And then we'll send our user over to the next activity and get that information to our text view inside of our profile in our onCreate, just like so. So get user information. Now we're going to get rid of this profile UID as well because we're not getting that information anymore. Open. Now let's log in with our username and password, which is our email and password. Sign in, and there we go. Okay, so we did it properly this time. Sorry about the last time. I know that was kind of just it was a test. Just kidding. So, so there's our JSON array of information. So of course you can see the age, the hobby Bobby Jones is our username, and then we don't have an image yet. And now that we have done that successfully, we are going to be working with some Firebase storage and some other, basically sending our data to our Firebase storage based off the image that we pick and all that fun jazz, just like we did in our other video in this playlist. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a few different pieces of information. That information is we're going to back up our get file name blocks if you already haven't done so. We're going to back up our upload image to database blocks if you haven't already done so. And we're going to back up our send user data to database blocks if you already haven't done that. So you just click on add to collection and then back it up. I have already done all this. And then I'm going to go into my profile activity, and I'm going to import from my collection all of those blocks. So the first block I'm going to grab is the pick file type request block. Then I'm going to pick the next block, which was our get file UR name. The next one after that from our collection is going to be the final one, which is upload image to our storage. So we need to change a few things inside of these blocks, however, because we need to get our image database information from our Firebase images storage in our profile activity. So we need to add our component name. So images database is what our component name is going to be. Take 5. And then we're going to name this images because that's where we placed all of our images. And then we're going to make sure that we add our database information. So we're going to add our JimJam database because we don't have our JimJam database in here yet. If we did, I think that was that Harry Potter one. If you already have that one, then you can change that, because it's actually technically just called JimJam, and that's why I don't like to name it different things sometimes, like we just did with the images database, so that we know what we're working with component wise. So our data location is JimJam for our user's profile, so that is what we're going to be working on. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to our main activity. We're going to go to our activity and our activity result. So we added a few things in here. We added a whole set of code here so that when we upload an image to our Firebase storage, we would be able to get our URL path. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to copy this entire piece of code, and we're going to actually add a string to our profile activity first. So let's copy this into our collection, and then this will be called upload activity result storage. Okay, that'll be what we name it. I know I misspelled that storage. And then we have to make sure that we copy the URL path string so that we can actually copy this full piece of block inside of here. So let's go to our onCreate, create a variable string called URL path. Okay, and then we're going to add our on activity result in here in our profile. Go inside that block, and then we're going to grab that custom block that we just created inside of our collection and paste it in there. Now we need to add another custom variable, a URI, just like we did before, private URI, and then it's going to be data URI, just like so, and that's our data URI from the image that we ended up grabbing. Now, there's going to be a couple things that we do here, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and click on our image. We're going to grab an event tab and click the on click event. Now, what we would like to do technically is make sure that the user is able to sign in. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our views, and we're going to add an edit text field and a button. Now, I'm not going to name these because I'm just going to make this super quick and simple. That button is going to allow us to sign in. And then when we click on our onCreate, when we get actually to our onCreate, we're going to hide those objects or those widgets. So we're going to hide the edit text, we're going to hide the button, and you could do whatever you want with this. You know, this is just me showing you something that you could do. So I'm going to hide those when we navigate to this activity. But when I click on my image, I'm going to show those so that I can sign in. Now you can make a dialog window if you wanted to enter the password, but I'm just going to keep it simple because we haven't worked with dialogues or anything like that are custom. So we're going to make that visible, and then we're going to sign in our user when we click on button 1. So what we're going to do is go grab our component block for our authentication, and let's go check for it, and where is it? So sign in our user, and our user is going to be signed in based off of the password that we enter in that text view. So let's grab that text view block and get that edit text option. And then our email was actually set by default when we actually navigated to this page. So we can just use that email string when we went into our onCreate and try to sign in. So when that user is signed in, we're going to check if that user can sign in complete, and that's going to be inside of our component section again. So if the user was successful, so we're going to go back in here. If successful, we're going to do a few different things inside of this piece of code right here. And what we're going to do in here is we're going to grab our string block. We're going to grab the string block for profile UID if it's successful, and we're going to get our UID. And we're going to set that to that string block. So let's go down into our Firebase authentication here. Where there it is right there. We're going to get that UID for a moment, basically. And then we're going to automatically pick our file path. So our file path is going to be based off of images that we want to pick, because we're just picking an image to change our profile image. Our request code is 33 because that's what we set before. And if you don't remember that, that's in our activity result. This is our request code right here. So that is our request code. And if the user has signed in successfully, it's going to give us the option to pick that. And then what we're going to do with that information is we're going to get that URL path, and then we're going to upload that URL path to our user's profile based off of the actual profile UID that's signed in. A lot of stuff, I know. And then we're going to go back into upload image to database. So we're going to push this data to our JimJam database to our actual user's profile based off of the UID. So let's grab our add key block, JimJam database based off this map data, and our key is going to be our profile UID. And then after that's been uploaded successfully in our onChild changed, we're going to go in there. Let's go to our onChild changed right here. When this is changed, we're going to click on our view. We're going to look for that block that says set our image from our URL path. And we're going to go and grab our if and else blocks here. So if child key equals our profile UID string, we're going to get our key value from our map data. So we're going to get key I of that URL that was pushed. And then we're going to reset our string back to nothing for our profile UID. So just like so, when we've childly changed our image. Now, the one other thing is we're going to copy this. Now, another thing we're going to do is copy this. And the reason for this is because we're going to learn about how to load our JSON information in our onCreate in the next video. But for now, let's just go with the workflow and what we're going to do. So basically, we're going to navigate to this page. We're going to click on this image. Once we click this image, we're going to have the visibility to actually enter our password, which is going to be for this. When we click on the button, we're going to sign in, or at least hopefully sign in if we've entered the password correctly. When we sign in, we're going to check if we can sign in successfully. If so, then we'll be able to pick our image. Once we've picked our image and we've signed in successfully, we've got our profile UID based off of our sign-in information. We're going to upload that URL to our specific UID for that user because we've signed in successfully. When that changes, we're going to set our image view for our profile image and then reset our profile UID. A lot of stuff I know in one video, but this is a lot of work and it's a lot to learn. So let's run this for the very last time and let's see what we have for errors here. Images cannot be resolved. Oh, get rid of this text view and our images database. My mistake. That's because I forgot to change this actual name of the storage path. So get rid of that text view if you have that in there, and then let's run this for the very last time. There we go. Now, I changed my location of where my edit text fields for my email and password were because it was a little bit annoying having it down there and I haven't messed around with anything else. So let's sign in our user. Okay. Now let's pick our image. Let's enter our password. Make sure we enter our password correctly. Now that we've signed in successfully, we're able to pick an image. I'm just going to pick a random image and maybe we set our type properly. Let's double check that. Oh, image. My mistake, not images. It's just image. Okay. Let's try that again. So email and password, DNA app development, password 1, and sign in. Click the image, enter your password again. This is just a test thing, right? So it's not something you have to do, but you can do this way so that you can make sure that, hey, I want to edit my image. I have to enter my password to make sure that I'm allowed to edit that image. Click that button. Now we can pick an image from our images. So I'm going to pick this one right here. It's uploaded, and there's that image uploaded to my database. Now we can go into our database. Now we won't be able to see that yet uploaded here for this little object, but when we come back to the next video to actually load that image, then we will be able to actually load it based off of the JSON information of this information into our image view every time we come back to our profile, and it'll show this image until we decide, hey, we want to pick this again. You can also work with things like making your edit text field and that button disappear once we've successfully done all this. However, this is the end of this part of this series. Stay tuned for the next part, because that's what we're going to do, is basically load this JSON object, and maybe I will just make a separate playlist for JSON as well, because JSON is a thing of its own, which is what this is. This is a JSON string array of data. So there's your key, your username, and your I for your image, so that you can convert this to a list. Have a nice day, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. I know it was a long one because it's a long process to learn how to code, and I try to do it as easily and explain a lot of things as easily as I can. Take care. See you next time.